What's going on, Dolphins? It is your boy Dillon. It is Saturday, and so it is the day before game day. And as I told you guys, day before game day is when I do my preview video. Normally, the way this would go is I will start off with, with the injury reports to let you guys know, who's questionable, blah, 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 whatever, for both teams. And then I will go into a comparison of each game played, the previous game played by each team. Since there is no, previous game played, I'm not counting preseason, obviously, because you didn't really, especially for us, you didn't really get, a long enough or an extended enough look of like the first team, right? So for us, we didn't really get a look at all. So I'm just going to compare, instead of, comparing each team's previous game, I'm going to compare the rosters, and we'll see how that shakes out. And then, I'll give my analysis throughout and so on and so forth. So, let's go ahead and get into it today. I'm going to do just the injury reports, and then, like I said, I will do a comparison of their depth chart versus our depth chart. Okay, so let's see. It looks like for us, we had one player, linebacker Trent Harris, with a foot injury who's unable to practice on Wednesday. This was early on in the week, this injury report, and let's see. It looks like okay, so yeah. Okay, so for us, Trent Harris did not practice Wednesday and Thursday. But let's see. We had Johnson Batamosi, the new cornerback that we just picked up. Danny Isidora, that we just the new guard we just picked up. Jonathan Jenkins, the new defensive tackle we just picked up. Bobby McCain, Andrew Van Ginkel, although we already know he's been put on injured reserve. Albert Wilson and Charles Harris are all listed on the injury report for us, but Trent Harris, the linebacker, was the only one of those that did not participate. Andrew Van Ginkel, we actually already know, was put on injured reserve. Johnson Batamosi with a hip was limited. Danny Isidora with a hamstring was limited. Jonathan Jenkins with an illness was limited, but he was back on Thursday, and I'm pretty sure he'll be all right. Bobby McCain, safety, with a shoulder, limited. And Albert Wilson with a hip, limited. Charles Harris with a wrist, but he was full participant, so he should be good to go. Honestly, all those guys that were, limited usually means that they'll go. Questionable, when it gets to questionable, then it's questionable, right? Normally, if a dude's just limited, he'll play. So it looks like, we should be basically full go. For them, Brandon Carr, cornerback with a hip injury, was limited on Wednesday, but a full participant on Friday. And Marquise Brown with a foot, wide receiver, was also listed. He was added midweek, but was a full participant on Thursday. So really, we have a... It's not really good that we have so many guys already on the very first injury report of the season. But, we do expect that all those guys should be ready and should be able to play. But that, obviously we would have liked to have, more like the Ravens with maybe 2 guys or no guys at this point in the season. But it is what it is. So, those are the guys who are a little bit banged up for both sides. So now, I want to, like I said, now would be the time where I would give you the comparisons between each team's last game played. There isn't that yet. I will obviously start that next week against when we play the Patriots, because each team will have played a game by then, and so I will be able to watch both games. Obviously tomorrow, just real quick, tomorrow during the game, I will be doing a live stream, so that way you guys can get my live reactions to everything that's going on. And then, obviously I'll do a post-game video and stuff. But for next week, once, so obviously I'm going to watch our game live, but then on Game Pass, NFL Game Pass, I will also go back and watch the Patriots game. I will do some, film study for their first game, so that way I can be ready and prepared for next week, in which I will actually do like a comparison of each team's prior game played. But for now, let's just compare the depth charts. And I'm pulling these off of ESPN. So I'm going to do this in a couple different ways. I'm going to compare the players at each, position on their team with the players on ours, and then also compare how I believe they will fare against, our side as well. So let's see. First of all, they have Lamar Jackson as their starting quarterback. Obviously way better than Ryan Fitzpatrick. Robert Griffin III, he's their backup. As far as I'm concerned, he's, I wouldn't really fear him at all, really, if he was to come in and play. Because I think he's not only really been a failure and a bust after his first year, but he seems to lack the confidence really anymore ever since that injury he got, and he just hasn't done anything. But Lamar Jackson is super dangerous, and especially since he's got a damn good offensive line overall. Now, I don't know, a lot of these guys super well, but at least 3 of their starting offensive linemen I know are really solid guys. Anyway, but Lamar Jackson is dangerous. This dude can throw the ball and he can run it, and historically we've had a difficult time, containing mobile quarterbacks. Now, this team is just a giant fucking mystery, so we just don't really even know. But, my guess is that he will employ some of that, and it will be a struggle for us because we're super young, super new. Look, you can say whatever the fuck you want about Brian Flores and his ability to coach a defense. He only called the plays 1 year, and it was with the Patriots. So, if we're keeping it real, coaches that go on to be head coaches from that tree don't tend to fare well overall. So, we'll see. Like, he really hasn't done anything yet, honestly. So we'll see how his schemes are and stuff. They're supposed to be really exotic and a mix of 3-4-3, whatever. But the players, though, like, especially with a lot of the just random for no reason, cuts towards the end, it's just a giant fucking mystery on this team. Even though I think the defense will be the strong suit. But, and then that obviously brings into the fact that, obviously I think that our offense is going to be putrid and our defense is going to be on the field for way too long. Look, man, I just think that they're going to end up being a lot of mistakes. I don't think you're going to see, especially because the offense I expect to be so bad that, to be fair to him, I don't think you're really going to even get to see what his full defense would even look like, because I think there's going to be too many mistakes, too many flags, too many, whatever. And they're going to be out there for far too long. They're going to get winded. They're going to get worn down. They're going to start getting hurt earlier in the season. I mean, not that you ever want guys to get hurt, but sooner than they should, because they're going to be overworked. Anyway, so Lamar Jackson definitely poses a major threat. Then Mark Ingram is a really good running back. Gus Edwards is pretty solid as well, who's their number 2. Yeah, and I mean, we don't really have any defensive ends at this point to speak of. I mean, they got rid of the most productive ones we had in the preseason. Guys like Nate Orchard and Tank Carradine or whatever. They got rid of Kiko, you know, so I mean, some of our linebackers we expect to be all right, but, you know, I don't know. Look, I mean, I think that, you know, I think we're going to end up seeing a lot of the same familiar weaknesses, but more. You know, I think we're going to have more weaknesses because this team is, I'm sorry, people don't like it, but this team is super weak right now. Anyway, their running backs are great. I mean, we got good running backs too, though, you know, Kenyon Drake and Kalen Ballage. But again, they're not going to be running behind, you know, a very good offensive line. Their starting wide receivers are Willie Snead, great receiver, Marquise Brown, and Seth Roberts. Overall, that group is kind of like, you know, just solid average, but with Lamar Jackson and, you know, Mark Ingram and the offensive line that they got, I mean, my guess is that, you know, well, first of all, I think that overall that's a really solid group to be working together. Those are some, you know, I mean, they're not superstars, those wide receivers, but they're good weapons for Lamar Jackson. And so, and I guarantee they're going to be, you know, they're going to cause us fits. And they're going to be, you know, especially later on in the game, I think you'll see, you know, some big plays in the passing game once our defense starts getting worn down. Tight end Mark Andrews, I'm honestly not super familiar with him, so I'm not really sure. But again, you know, since they have a good quarterback, a good offensive line, good receivers and everything, you know, I wouldn't be, and we've historically had a tough time defending like tight ends and stuff. I would be shocked if they didn't employ him and if he wasn't able to have some success. But we'll see. All right, and so then looking at their offensive line, they have left tackle Ronnie Stanley, who I know is a pretty solid tackle. Then left guard Bradley Bozeman. Don't know a whole lot about him. Center Matt Skura. I think he's solid, but I'm not super sure about him. Right guard Marshall Yanda, though, is really good. And right tackle Orlando Brown is also really good. So, again, you know, they have a really solid offensive line. From what I can tell, from what I know, it's better on the right side. So, you know, maybe expect to see stuff going in that direction when they're on offense. And look, you know, I mean, against our defense, so real quick, our starting defense is left defensive end John Jenkins, the new guy. You know, doesn't know the system or anything all yet. Plus, you know, he's battling an illness, whatever. He should be fine, but battling an illness. Devon Godshaw is the nose tackle. And Christian Wilkins is the right defensive end, according to this, right? So it's just, I mean, it is a little strange because, you know, but obviously this is a base 3-4. So, we'll, you know, honestly, we're going to have to see how, you know, after a game or two or a few games, how he is going to employ his defense, because we really just don't know. But then our linebackers are then Sam McGuavian, Raekwon McMillan, Jerome Baker, and Charles Harris. Interesting. And then you have Xavier Howard, obviously, who I'm confident in. Bobby McCain and Rashad Jones at safety, and Eric Rose the other corner. I mean, overall, you know, the names on there, I think that we're pretty weak up front, but as you filter back, I think we're pretty solid. I mean, obviously I love X. I think Bobby is definitely would play his best football in the slot, but I think he can do that. So, and with the guys around him, I'm not super worried. So, but we'll just have to see. And then Rashad Jones, I always got confidence in him, but I'm not sure he's really got confidence in the team and stuff. So we'll see how that goes. And then Eric Rowe, I always thought he was going to be the starter, and as it turns out, he is, opposite Xavier. So I actually like our secondary overall. They did, weaken it by getting rid of TJ McDonald and whatever, but we'll see what happens. Like I said, I do overall like them. The linebackers, Charles Harris just overall needs to prove himself. I like Bake, obviously. McMillan, I like him. He does need to improve though. So does Bake, but they're both young guys. Sam McGuavian did some really, really good things for us, and I really like him. So overall, I do like the linebackers as well. Christian Wilkins was our number 1 pick. I do like Devon Godshaw. So on paper, I actually do really like that. I think that they're going to struggle against this Ravens offense. I think that we have a combination of just really young guys. We have, guys who like John Jenkins, who just got on the team a few days ago. We have new guys as in Sam McGuavian was from the CFL. Eric Rowe was from another team. We have young draft picks and stuff like that. We do have some of our vets and stuff like that. Overall, I like our defense, right? And I've been saying this from the beginning that I think that's going to be our strong suit for sure. But they're going to end up, the good things that they do are going to end up being overshadowed and eventually negated by the fact that the offense is going to be so bad. So against our defense, initially, I think that our defense, and I think that our defense will play well overall, and I think that they will be able to hold them in some instances. But I think that overall, their offense is at some point for sure going to, overpower the defense, mostly because they'll probably play just far too long. But in comparison to our offense, they're going to do far better than what our offense is going to do. And I feel like a lot of our games are going to end up being, pretty defensive heavy, where our defense does keep us in the game, but we're going to end up losing a lot of close games, I'm guessing, because our offense just doesn't match them at all. And the other team's offense outperforms our offense just enough to beat us, right? So I think we're going to end up losing a lot of close games. And I know people hate when I bring, Gase up. I don't care. But, Gase won a lot of really close games, right? 3 points or less, 7 points or less. He won a lot of those. Had a phenomenal record. Now, we don't know how Brian Flores is going to fare in that way, or really at all. So, we have to wait and see to be able to compare those sorts of things. But Gase, in his time here, already, or did prove that he was good in those close games, and that was a lot because of not just his coaching and stuff, but because of how they were building the team, how well rounded it was, and so on and so forth. A lot like theirs is right now. Anyway, so yeah. Okay, so moving on to their defense. Chris Wormley is their left defensive end. Michael Pierce is their nose tackle, and Brandon Williams is their right defensive end. Let's see, their linebackers are Matthew Judon, Patrick Onwuasor, Chris Board, and Pernell McPhee. I actually am really not familiar with much of any of these guys. I really wish I had film to be able to know. Let's see, Marlon Humphrey, though, their corner is really good. And then, of course, they got Earl Thomas and Tony Jefferson, which are good safeties. And Jimmy Smith is their other cornerback, which is a solid guy. So their secondary is pretty solid. But, my perspective is that against, let's see, this is our offense. Ryan Fitzpatrick, the starting quarterback, geez, that's going to end up being a disaster. Running back Kenyon Drake. Obviously, I like him. Devontae Parker, Albert Wilson, and Jakeem Grant are listed as our starting receivers. I don't have any confidence that Parker's going to do anything. Well, or Albert Wilson was limited with his hip injury. Jakeem Grant's obviously coming off the foot injury. We'll have to see how well they do. And obviously then also including the fact that this offensive line, which I'll get to in a minute, is just scary, to say the least. I don't know that they're really going to have much of an opportunity in the pass game. Gesicki is listed as the starting tight end, but he obviously, I love the kid, and I think he has a lot of potential, and I hope he can grow into that, but he's got a long way to go, and a lot to improve on, so we'll see how that works out. But this offensive line, Julian Davenport is the left tackle, Michael Dieter is the left guard, Daniel Kilgore is the center, Shaq Calhoun is the right guard, and Jesse Davis is right tackle. So that's pretty scary just as is. But especially, Brian Flores said that there might even be, just a rotation in some places. They might switch guys out. That's even worse because the guys behind them are not any better, for one, and two, that doesn't allow them any cohesion or chemistry or anything when you're switching guys out on the offensive line. Anyway, I think that's just, obviously you guys know my take on that. I think it's going to be just an absolute disaster with the offensive line. And so while I've been saying for a while that I do like a lot of our skill guys, I think that we have a major, of course, we got rid of Tunsil and Stills, which are huge hits to this offense. That was already going to be bad enough. But, I think that we downgraded at quarterback and across the offensive line, obviously. And so I think the offensive line, the areas, on the offense where things start in the trenches, and the two most important areas, the offensive line and quarterback, I think are going to be extremely exposed. Right, so honestly, I don't really know a lot about a lot of these guys on the Ravens defense. They're not a lot of the same guys that used to be there and stuff. Obviously, their secondary I know decently well, but everyone else I'm not really sure. And I wish I had film on them to watch, but I don't really. So, but I think that almost every team is going to outpower this offense. I mean, I feel like that but again, to be fair, they do have an opportunity to prove me wrong. So we'll see what happens in this upcoming game. I don't think it helps either, like I mentioned before, to tell the other team that, Kenyon Drake's going to get a lot of touches. I don't think it helps to let them know what your game plan is. Now, maybe, again, to be fair, it was just a smokescreen, but we'll know tomorrow. So, we'll see. Yeah, I mean, honestly, and of course, though, normally I wouldn't even really have to bring it up, but, special teams, Matt Hawk I'm good with, is the punter and the holder. Jason Sanders is place kicker, good. Punt return, kick return, Jakeem Grant, all right, I like that. But the long snapper is Tabor Pepper. Normally, John Denny wouldn't have to worry about it at all. But now this dude, I mean, we just don't know. And it could go really well for him, but as of right now, we don't know. So there is a question mark there. Anyway, overall, I think that their defense is going to, just outpower across the board our offense, especially that offensive line and the quarterback. And that's going to be everything because the skill position players aren't even really. But I think that they're going to shut down the run game because I just think our offensive line is just going to be so bad that we're not going to be able to do anything. Again, they have an opportunity to prove me wrong. I mean, if they could. I mean, look, it's the Ravens are a tough team. Their offense is pretty, overall high-powered, and, they've always had a strong defense. So, we'll see. I mean, this will be a good first measuring stick. But yeah, I mean, honestly, like if I'm keeping it real, as far as predictions go, I mean, I'm not gonna, as the season goes on and more data is accumulated on us and our opponents and stuff like that, I'll probably make, firmer predictions. As of right now, I think that it is early on in the season. I think that, this game might actually end up being relatively close. Mostly just because of the fact that our defense, will probably keep us in it. They are still relatively fresh. It's still early in the year, so they haven't gotten, beat down and worn down yet. And the offense hasn't, actually disappointed them yet. I mean, they were a pretty major disappointment in the preseason. But I think that at least initially we'll see similar to what we saw from the preseason. The offense just doesn't really do much shit at all, and the defense plays well overall. Will probably keep us in the game, but I think that their offense will end up, taking advantage of the fact that our defense is on the field for far too long, and they will eventually, find some weaknesses and expose those and get enough points to beat us. I think that it will probably end up being a low-scoring game, probably somewhere in the teens. And if I'm being honest, I think that the Ravens will end up winning this game. If we do win it, it will have to be in a close game, where the defense really keeps us in it. But furthermore, the defense probably would have to even get a score at some point, because I don't think that the offense is really going to have it in them to put up touchdowns. I think that at some point they might get some good drives together, although we have the most penalized left tackle in the league from last year. So, not only will they be putrid, but in performance and stuff like that, but it could be a very heavily penalized. Michael Dieter had a few penalties in the preseason. Shaq Calhoun's another rookie. I mean, so we'll see. But I think that's probably going to be a major issue too. So I don't expect them to be putting up touchdowns. At best, they might work their way downfield to get some field goals, but as we know, field goals don't win games. So I think that, if we were to win it, it would have to be, a defensive carry, and they would even have to probably score for us at some point. So, but overall, I think it probably will be a defensive heavy game overall. And I think the score will be relatively low. I'd say probably mid-teens, somewhere in there. So that's about the extent of my predictions for now. Like I said, as data comes in, I will, as we progress each week, I can give more and more accurate previews and post-game videos and so on and so forth, as well as do, hopefully more accurate predictions. I mean, at least I'll have more. Maybe I'll suck at my predictions, but at least I'll have more information to make a better educated guess with. Who knows? I might just suck at my predictions. So anyway, that's what I got for you. That is my, synopsis and how I feel we compare to their team, so on and so forth. Mostly obviously just on paper at this point. And we'll see where it goes. I mean, just the final thing, on us, just to reiterate once again, I think that overall our defense is going to be solid, and I think that they're going to carry us a lot in games and so on and so forth. I don't think that it's really going to help us win much of anything, unfortunately. Mostly because I feel like the offense is going to be so bad that they will overshadow and negate any positive things that the defense does. And I think that we will see that early on, although obviously I think that as the season progresses, we'll see it more and more, and then we'll, anyway. So, and finally, as much as I personally at this point have lost a ton of respect, for Brian Flores and don't really want to see him as the coach. He is our coach. That is the reality of it. And he has an opportunity still to prove me wrong on the football side of things. I mean, there's really nothing he can do to change my personal views of him at this point. I think he's a sellout and frankly not a very good person with the way he's handled it, and I think that'll show in, his loss for players on the team and in the locker room and stuff like that. I think we will see signs of that throughout the season. But that aside, he does have an opportunity to prove me wrong on the football side of it. So let's see if his decisions pay off at all. And anyway, I mean, he says to everybody that we're not tanking, so we should be able to go out there and win some games, right? Well, we'll see. I'm not so confident. Anyway, that's all I got for you guys. I'm gonna go ahead and I apologize. It's not super in depth, this first one. Whatever. But that's my preview video for you guys. I hope you do enjoy it. If you do, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the bell if you want to get the alerts. Leave your questions, comments, and concerns down in the comment section. And of course, as always, make sure you follow me on Twitter at Dillon Tartaro. And with that, I am out. I'll see y'all soon. Fins up.